Hytale just confirmed and released their full modding strategy, and it completely changes what this game actually is and what it's going to be. So we've been waiting a long time for a big reveal on what they're going to do with modding, what tools are going to be available. They've already given us a little bit of a reveal already, which I covered in the last news video when they announced that Hytale was back, which I recommend you to watch. So they've posted a blog article. This was posted yesterday, and basically it's just going to give us a clear, honest overview of where Hytale modding stands today, what we can expect in the short term, and what we're talking about in the long run. Hytale gives you lots of tools to express your creativity, and in this post they're basically going to tell us the current status and future vision for scripting, programming, modeling and configuration. So let's get into it, and then we're going to talk about it after. So modding is at the core of Hytale. We will always strive to create an immersive adventure for Hytale and continuously expand it in the future. The fortunate fact for modders is that we built the game with the tools that we deliver with the game. Our goal is that anything we do, you can do as well. So that's pretty cool. So while they've been developing the game with their own tools, they're going to release those same tools for us to build content for their games. So that's also a really nice thing. So we're going to get the architecture they actually built it upon. As a modder, you'll benefit not just from the tooling we use, but also from the content we create to deliver the block game we've always craved for. We're building Hytale with modding at its core. Most of what you see in the game can be changed, extended or removed entirely. Blocks, items, NPCs, world generation, UIs, systems and behaviors are all driven by data and code that you can influence. In this post we're going to be talking about the game, the client and the server. Usually servers are only relevant when joining multiplayer. Hytale is different. Even when you join single player, you join a local server that's just for yourself. So when we talk about servers, we actually mean both single player and multiplayer. So a lot of games do this. They basically run a local server on your machine to connect to the single player experience, which is an interesting way to do it. So when they're talking about server architecture, it's actually important for single player gameplay apparently. So a few key principles is that server side is first. So all modding in Hytale is based on the host of the server or the host of the game. You should be able to join any modded server without downloading external mods or juggling client packs. Use any combination of plugins and asset packs to customize your gameplay experience, or rely on a server to offer you an experience. You create a single player save and select the mods you want to use for that save game. One community, one client. We want to avoid a fragmented ecosystem where every server requires a different modded client. For that reason, we don't intend to support any client mods. The client should remain stable, secure and consistent, while servers provide the creativity and variation. So they want to run everything it seems on the server side. So with Minecraft, we have a lot of client side mods, most of which are quality of life mods if we're connecting to multiplayer with them. So things like just enough items. It seems like they're not looking to support those. Everything should be run on the server so everyone can download them. That's what I'm getting from it. They want modding to basically add to the longevity and the lifespan of the game. We're committing to modding for the long term, and we believe modders like us have been looking for a project that doesn't just tolerate them but actively embraces and supports them. This is important. I'm not going to throw any shade, but there are a lot of big game publishers right now, particularly that seem to not really like modding. We've seen in GTA a lot of the biggest mod projects have got taken down. Maybe they've got DMCA or legal action against them, which is a big shame, and it actually does hurt the community and the longevity of the game, because people create some awesome content for the game, which isn't always for a monetary reason. They're not always trying to make money, they're just doing it because they like the game. So it's a good thing that Hytale is embracing that rather than working against it. Empowering modders without exposing players. We want modders to benefit from the work and build a future they can rely on with as much freedom as possible, without exposing players to the security and safety risks that exist on some other modding platforms. That's the standard we're holding ourselves to. We're not there yet, but that's the direction. So from what I'm getting from this is they're basically turning Hytale into kind of like Minecraft plus Roblox all in one. And they're basically saying here that modding is the foundation of the game. It's not just a bonus feature or thing that they've just thrown in there on the top. They're basically designing the whole game around modders and modding. They're not adding it later like other games, which is actually nice to see. Especially some huge releases that have really great single player experiences, and then you just can't mod them. There's so many cool games I liked, but they just don't have any mods for them, and the developers never release mod tools, and it really does hurt the game. For an example, Redfall was a really cool vampire game which kind of flopped. They made it a lot better before they gave up on it with some later updates and stuff, but if they would have released some mod tools, I'm sure most of the community could have fixed most of the shortcomings of the game and improved it, but it never happened. There's a lot of examples like that. But the server side mods thing that they mentioned in this article seems like a big win for accessibility. So anyone can join a modded server without installing mods, and that's huge for player numbers too. So that's going to make it a lot easier for younger players or people who are not really techie to actually connect to places, which is really cool. And one big thing which I think the no client mods thing is going to do, even though it is actually quite a shame, I think it's going to create fewer cheaters and more stability in the game, because they're locking down the client, and this is also going to avoid things like hacks, bugs, and some fragmentation. So this is good long term, even if the modders are going to hate it, in my opinion. There's kind of pros and cons to that. And they also admitted that the tools aren't actually ready yet, which is quite rare, honestly, because not many studios are openly going to just tell you we're behind. They're usually going to pretend, specifically when they've got like investors behind them. But since they're independent, they're being quite transparent, which is something which I like to see. So they basically go on to the technical reality check. So the blunt part is they're behind where they want to be. So like we just said, they're telling us that they're not really at the level they want to be at, but they're being transparent about that. Especially with things in early access, you don't really want to lie to the community because there's already a lot of hype and unmet expectations. So they're missing years of development time that they need to now compress into months for a release. There's gaps in the tools, the documentation, and the way the systems are exposed. Some features only exist because they were hacked together during prototyping and weren't polished. So they made a deliberate decision to ship access now instead of waiting for perfection. We chose to fix up what we reasonably could in the short time that we've had with the project, and then open things up so you can start experimenting while we work towards the long-term modding vision. So what this means right now is they'll run into limitations. So we'll run into limitations when playing due to the missing editing capabilities. Certain aspects of client behavior are not yet exposed to the server, and some tools and systems are rough, inconsistent, or painful to work with. Modding maturity is wildly uneven depending on what you want to build. We decided not to hide valuable features just because they're not yet up to our standards. If something is useful to you, we'll try to make it available and iterate on it in the public. And you're absolutely encouraged to hold us accountable for that. Hold us responsible for this progress. They're basically saying just give them feedback. That's all that matters right now. They also do have an official Discord, and you can check out their X, where the developers and also the owner Simon is actually posting a lot of updates, which we're going to cover later. Apparently they've got a subreddit and also documentation on Gitbook, which I guess is related to GitHub. The current state of modding is something they're not currently satisfied with, but they believe holding access back until everything's perfected is going to be a disservice to the community. So then they break down 4 major content categories. So it largely falls into 4 technical categories. So the first one is server plugins, which come in the form of .jars, kind of like how Minecraft works. That's probably where they've got it from. This extends the functionality of the server programmatically, extremely powerful, and allows deep modifications to the gameplay experience and the core server system. You can use them to build mini games, economies, commands, custom logic, new asset types, and more. So just like with bucket plugins, which I kind of prophesized in the last update video when we talked about Hytale coming back, they are doing this, server plugins as jars like Minecraft. Data assets are in JSON files. These drive gameplay behavior and define core content, so blocks, items, and NPCs, world gen, drop tables, loot, and more. So these are going to be used for data, so when you're doing like custom drops and dungeons, I presume. Art assets, sounds, models, and textures provide the visual and audio representation of game elements, and Blockbench, which they said is the main model tool, is used for creating the models, texture, and animations. Save files, worlds, and prefabs share whole worlds or specific builds, and these prefabs are used in creative tools and world gen to place pre-built structures like trees, houses, and landmarks. That was another thing we also covered in yesterday's update video too. They did mention prefabs, and I kind of said that it's going to be similar to the Hammer editor, which you get in Source games, because you can create prefabs and place them in a similar fashion. Now they're not adding text-based scripting. That also includes things like Lua, which is a programming language, and they do not intend to add it. The reason being is because text-based scripting is usually introduced to help non-programmers like designers building custom behaviors. In reality, script languages like Lua are still programming languages. Programmers now have to juggle 2 languages, one of which usually feels nerfed. Designers are still expected to learn actual programming concepts, and in the end, it's less inclusive and increases complexity for both sides. We see that as a false compromise. Our direction, visual scripting. Instead of text-based scripting, we'll be adding visual scripting. Our experience with Unreal Engine blueprints showed us that. Designers feel genuinely empowered when they build logic visually. Programmers are more productive when they stay in programming language, Java or C#, and expose high-level nodes. So visual scripting is kind of like when you have those blocks, and then you have like all those little lines from them that connect to other like blocks. It's basically visual scripting elements that are all like interlinked. It's quite confusing if you haven't seen like Unreal Engine, but if you watch videos where like they remake games like Simpsons Hit and Run, and then they add like all the coding and logic, you'll see them doing the visual scripting in these kind of videos. But but that's basically what it is. But the goal of this is designers are empowered through a visual language that matches how they think about behaviors. Programmers can extend and optimize the system by adding new visual nodes and performance sensitive implementations. We avoid fragmented logic across multiple half languages, and we believe this is the most empowering approach for modders without compromising on capabilities. That's interesting, so that's how programming is going to be. Then they talk about the tools available today. Currently they offer the following, which is the Hytale asset editor, which is used to edit most data assets, and it supports most asset types, which you mentioned above, but there is notable limitations around NPCs, world gen, and interactions, but this will expand over time. So they have a video about this. I'd recommend watching my last Hytale video where I showed this video. I'm not going to show it again. It's basically him editing a particle, basically a portal. And then they also, now this is really interesting, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been wanting to see this, they're going to talk about Blockbench a little bit more after the reveal they already did, which we also covered last time. So just like I said, guys, I do have experience in modding, right? I don't just talk random stuff. Just like I said, it is actually a plugin. So they basically developed a Blockbench plugin, like I thought they would, to create Hytale compatible models, textures, and animations directly in Blockbench. This basically replaced their own modeling and animation tools used in the past to better support established creative workflows in the community. Because yet again, just like they said they wanted to stop working on that new game engine and they went back to the old game engine, it's the same with a lot of the creative tools. When they can outsource them or use something that's already established and good like Blockbench, they don't need to keep developing their own version of it, right? But this is intended also for release as soon as possible. So let's have a look at some images. So we know what Blockbench is like, but if you're wondering about what some of the models look like, what the plugin might look like, does it add any other properties to the software, we've got some images here. So here he's basically working on a mob called the Goblin Duke, which looks super cool. This is also an animation he's working on. So he's animating the mob here. It looks like some kind of raw or something. And then this is what we talked about before. So this is the visual scripting. So like I said, with the panels and then the little lines to the other panels, this is basically what visual scripting is. And in the background, I guess you've got some kind of world gen thing tied to it. And then another closer up look about how visual scripting kind of represents itself. So if you've worked in Unreal Engine, you'll know what this is all about. Some context behind some of these as well. The asset graph editor is an unfinished internal editor they use as a temporary solution for world gen, creative tool brushes, NPCs, and hopefully more to come. It's not the quality bar we want, but it's useful enough that we'd rather expose it and improve it rather than hide it. So this is currently working on releasing it as well. Machinima tools. So last time we talked about tools for creators, so what a Hytale add-in so we can make like movies and videos in game. The Machinima tools, such as the tool they used to create the trailer, the original reveal trailer for Hytale in 2018, is available, and they have some technical issues they need to fix, but they are usable and they do deliver great results for them. As for creative tools, there's an interactive suite of tools to modify the world and express your creativity. I showed that last time, check the last video, he did already reveal some screenshots of that, and you can expect dedicated videos and blogs about them. That's what I also said. I said they're probably going to release some kind of tutorials or guides on how to use them, so we're not just guessing. They've released footage of them from the past. They're rough around the edges, but that's expected, and they decide they will intend to fix them. Short-term improvements. We know the lack of documentation for assets and systems is causing serious friction, and we feel the same pain internally, so we commit to releasing the server source code as soon as we're legally able to. Expect this within 1 to 12 months post-release. In the meantime, the server is not obfuscated, so you can compile it easily. Just like the announcement we made with Minecraft unobfuscating all the code in current and future releases now, they seem to be doing this with a server. This will basically allow us to inspect how systems work under the hood while they work on the documentation of explaining it, unblock yourself by reading the actual implementation, not guessing from trial and error, and contribute improvements and bug fixes back to the developers. Asset packs and mod distribution. So this is going to be interesting for Minecraft mod pack creators. Because we're releasing the game at this early stage, we did not have time to design a polished first-class distribution flow. For now, expect friction when bundling creations into clean, shareable packages, managing dependencies between plugins, asset packs, and worlds. This is one of our top modding priorities, so expect quick iteration as we see how you can actually try to ship and share your work. So we're going to see something very similar to Minecraft mod packs at some point in time, and it's going to become more polished as they work on that whole ecosystem. So you're going to be able to share plugins, asset packs, and worlds together in basically a bundle, just like what we do on CurseForge with mod packs. The UI situation is messy, so as for custom UIs, they are using 3 UI frameworks at the same time, and they're in the process of ripping out 2 of them to consolidate them on one called the Gnosis GUI. Gnosis Technologies has been extremely helpful to us, and we want to acknowledge their role in helping make Hytale happen. So I presume this is a third third-party like asset pack or some kind of technology, but this means that their current UIs are incomplete and limited, but you can start experimenting with them and tell us what you're trying to build and where you get blocked, and we'll try to prioritize unblocking you. As for stability, there's crashes. Some of them are severe and cause data loss. They're going to fix the crashes as they come in with rapid improvements, but we cannot guarantee data integrity, so you should assume this will be affected at some point. So do frequent backups of your save games and important creations, and treat this as true early access. They also plan to launch a first-party server network operated by an internal team that offers a selection of classic Hypixel network-style minigames after launch, but work has yet to be started on this. The reason they're doing this is they want to bring back familiar minigames, as well as new original minigames for Hytale. Use the same tools and workflows available, so they can basically validate how the whole minigame creation and server management system works, because they're going to be giving that to us. Gather data on Hytale servers behave at scale, in terms of performance, are they stable, and share what they learn, and then partially release the code and assets from their minigames to the community to learn off how they're made and then create their own good ones. Long-term vision for modders is to deliver a comprehensive suite of tools and services. We want new modders to enter game creation without needing expensive software or years of experience. Experienced modders to build the complex systems, businesses and communities on top of Hytale, and Hytale to blur the line between playing games and creating games. Beyond simply releasing the server source code, they plan to open development bounties for specific improvements and features. So what this is in the programming world is if someone finds like a bug or fixes something, then they will give you money for that. Now I'm not sure if someone got money for this in GTA 5, but there was basically a huge problem. I mean, it's still not really very good, but there was a huge problem where in loading screens it would take like 30 minutes to load into a game. The code was just terrible, and someone or a team of people in the community fixed the loading times by just like a small fix in the code, and then Rockstar implemented that, and then it's got like a certain percentage quicker. It's just community improvements, and sometimes the developers will pay them and reward contributions that strengthen this ecosystem, and then obviously promotes people finding bugs and getting them fixed. The node editor, so this is the visual scripting interface. So some asset types are currently painful to configure in raw JSON, which is the file type that supports this. So that's NPCs, interactions, world gen, and they've been using internal tools to make it more manageable, but they want to release node graph style editors for these asset types and integrate those node editors directly into the Hytale asset editor, so you can have a unified creator suite instead of a patchwork set of tools. So everything they're just trying to kind of improve that's half broken and then kind of bring it all together into one seamless system. And visual scripting is a core pillar of the long-term vision. So Java plugins will continue to exist and are extremely powerful, but they require programming skills and come with safety concerns. Visual scripting will provide a sandbox safe environment for sharing logic, offer great learnability and modifiability for modders of all skill levels, and allow programmers to extend it with performance critical nodes. Over time, we want to bring visual scripting directly into the 3D world, link levers, doors, spawners, triggers and other elements in game, build intricate adventure maps and encounters directly inside Hytale, and take inspiration from systems like Doom's Snap Map while keeping it fully integrated with our asset and scripting stack. So the closing words is they're very deliberately in early access for modders because everything's uneven. That's basically what they're saying. Just some takeaways from this article before I show you something else before the end of the video, because I do actually have some footage and some extra behind the scenes of modding on Twitter which I want to show you in this video. Let's talk more about this article on conclusion. So all of this modern ecosystem and all these modern tools they're working on, in my opinion, does position Hytale as an actual competitor to both Minecraft but also Roblox, because Roblox is the thing that has like the biggest creative ecosystem in my opinion. Minecraft has a lot of kind of third-party modding, but they've only just kind of brought in support in the last few years on the Bedrock edition of the game publicly with their kind of interference in it, if you like. So Mojang's not really doing much with modding on the Java side, they're only doing it on Bedrock, whereas Roblox have a big hand in people making custom content and games, and you can make a lot of money from it. So they're kind of clearly aiming, it seems, at the whole create anything space where they want people just to make the UGC content for the game. It's not just the survival or adventure space. They are looking into user-generated content a lot, it seems. And this might redefine how a lot of sandbox games might begin to actually launch in the future, because if this works, other studios might actually start shipping the game early, because Hytale want to just throw the game at you before it's finished when it's really buggy. This might incentivize other game creators to open the tools first and then the game content later, because in the past typically early access has not been received very well on platforms like Steam because people just leave tons of bad reviews, so it's really discouraging. But this is kind of breaking the mold with that, and we still don't know if they're going to release on Steam. It seems like they're just going to release on their own website, I think. But it also brings a heavy risk, right? Because if the tools are rough, then the early modders will struggle a lot, which seems to be quite evident. And the modders could bounce to a different platform or game if the tools are just super buggy at launch, because first impressions do matter, and there's only so long people will wait, and there's only so much goodwill you have. And Hytale probably did burn a lot of that goodwill over the last few years when people kind of gave up on it, but there's a lot of people still behind it. But if these tools do land and they give a good user experience, obviously a strong modern foundation basically will guarantee the longevity of this game, in my opinion. So as a creator myself, you know, as a YouTuber and modder, I think this is going to be a goldmine for content, especially for people who actually actively are still releasing mods for games, because there's going to be so much to cover on YouTube for a start. So we have the tools, we have the mods, we have the servers, experiments, the showcases. It's kind of like Minecraft all over again. A lot of us have kind of felt like Minecraft grew kind of old, but now this is going to be a brand new experience, so a lot of us will move into making content for this, just like we did with Minecraft, so that's interesting. So to close out this video, I've got a really cool example of a mod that they've actually made themselves to show us what it may be like. So this article we've just read, you can see the banner image here shows a guy riding a Raptor, right? Well, there's a reason for that. If we go on Twitter, they actually did post a tweet yesterday during a similar time when this article was posted, and they said, due to popular demand for our last tweet, we made a quick mod to ride the Raptor. Modders can make things rideable by easily changing the config in our asset editor. Also, if you scroll down, they've also got some pretty funny properties, which may or may not be in the mod, I don't know, but that also made me laugh. So he basically has a really quick video where he's running across the savannah, and then he can just mount up on the Raptor. You can't hear the sounds here because they're muted, but it's a really basic mod where he's riding around on the Raptor, and it's actually super cool, I'm not gonna lie. It kind of reminds me of World of Warcraft, but it's just a basic mod. He's just shown that you can saddle up, you can make anything rideable with quick mods, so we could probably make like horses and any natural mobs in the environment rideable too. So let me know what you think about modding in the comments down below. Are you going to be working on mods? Are you excited to see what people are going to create in the community? And what do you think about this huge modding update? Because in my opinion, this changes absolutely everything. Make sure to like the video and subscribe, because this channel I'm going to cover everything outstanding that actually comes out about this game, all the news and stuff in the Minecraft and the modding space and similar games. So don't miss out and check out these two videos next.